Let me say good evening to all of us tonight. We will now call to order the Muscogee City Council meeting for Monday, September 28, 2020. I'm going to ask that we stand for the invocation and then the flag salute. Let us pray. Lord, we thank you so much for today. I pray, oh God, your blessings upon us as a council, Father, and those constituents who are here on tonight, those who are watching from afar. Lord, that you would give us direction from the power and presence of your Holy Spirit. Father, let your Spirit be the governing voice for all of our concerns, that we may lead our city correctly and set an example for young people and those considering moving to our great city. Bless us on tonight with wisdom and guidance. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the flag salute, please. Attention. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds.
Here.
Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee.
Here.
Tracy Hoos.
Here.
We are going to now consider approval of the minutes of the special call city council meeting for September 20th and the council retreat regular session for September 14th. The council has had a time to opportunity to review the minutes. What is the pleasure of the body?
Move for approval. Second.
Been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. We will now consider the consent agenda, which consists of items 1 through 18. Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda unless someone has a desire to remove an item?
Move for approval. Second.
Been properly moved in second. Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 19.
Receive report on the COVID-19 pandemic in Muskogee, and if necessary, take appropriate action to authorize and approve a subsequent amendment to Resolution Number 2801, declaring a local emergency, or City-County Joint Resolution Number 2803.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of Council, thank you for taking time to discuss this important issue with us. You're accustomed by now to our reports at the council meeting. What I'll add before we bring Tyler Evans forward is that we are very near our peak of active cases at any one time in Muscogee, in the city of Muskogee, which is one of the things that we track very closely as city officials is how active is the virus in our community. And so we do know and want to acknowledge that as we also try and keep an eye on how we should act and behave in our community. We have frequent phone calls with the State Health Department and the Muscogee County Health Department as they keep us informed, and we do keep track of the Washington reports as well as the state reports on what their recommendations are for our community and our county and our state. So I'm going to ask Tyler Evans to come forward now and speak to us more about our current state here in the city of Muskogee.
Thank you.
And Mayor, members of council, in front of you should have your packet that you're used to getting. As Mr. Miller stated, we are at a pretty high peak here in Muskogee. We have 183 active cases as of today. The highest number has been 184, which is on Saturday. So we're right there at the highest number of active cases that we've been at for the city itself. We've had 16 deaths in the city, 23 of those in Muscogee County, and 10 of those being in our long-term care facilities, such as our nursing homes. You see on the line graph at the bottom of the page, that line unfortunately continues to steadily increase upwards, as so does the state and the surrounding communities around us. As some of you have heard over the past couple of days, we did have an outbreak here in our local Muscogee County jail. The latest data I had is that Oklahoma State Department of Health is going to start testing all of the employees at the Muscogee County Jail. So far, 21 inmates have tested positive, and another 122 have asked to be tested. Anybody that wants to be tested there at the facility can request a test, and OSDH will be performing that test there at the jail. If you flip your page over to about the third page, you get the state of Oklahoma, which we're used to seeing our COVID-19 symptom tracker, which has the yellow and the orange and the green counties. Muskogee, as of the 24th, has a 22.3% percentage of cases per 100,000 on the 7-day average. Of course, the dividing line is 14.29. We'd like to get below that 14.29 to take us back into the yellow category instead of the orange. You have the Washington Task Force, COVID-19 Task Force report there on the right. I apologize, this report is from the 20th. They put these reports out on Sundays, but they simply don't put it out soon enough for me to get you the latest report for this week. We tried that again last week. I don't know if they're publishing it on Tuesdays or late in the afternoons or not. It's just not quick enough to get it here. So please keep in mind that this report on the right is a little over a week old. It's 8 days old. And some of the data, the following graphics on the following pages come from the same report from Washington State there. The localities in the red zone, Muscogee's one of the 12, along with the counties there on the red charts there on the top left. On the right page, you have your top 12 counties based on number of new cases in the last 3 weeks. One thing I would like to point out when it shows the 12 counties here, Muscogee County looks unlike the others. You have Oklahoma County and Tulsa County, which have the high graph line there, the high orange line. You have Muscogee County, which had that surge from Taft, from Eddie Warrior, and Just Dunn. We're hoping the next week or two, once that 7-day rolling average, those numbers roll off, that we will go back down and get back into the lower category out of the 20s and back below 14.29 into the yellow and out of the orange. So as you can tell, like I said, on the Muscogee County graph there, it doesn't look like any of the other larger county, Rogers County, Cherokee County, that we did have that one spike there for a couple of weeks from Taft that kind of sent us soaring into the orange. So I'm hoping the next week or so that we'll see that trend line go back down. And on the back is the metrics that the Washington COVID-19 Task Force uses for their green, yellow, orange, and red grading scale, so you can have an idea what they're looking at and where they would like to see the test results fall for the respective counties. With that includes the update I have for here. On the line, we do have Mr. Doug Walton from the Muscogee County Health Department to give us an update. Doug?
Yes, hello, Tyler, Mayor, and Council. As Tyler reported, the numbers for the city and also for the county are near their highest levels to date as far as active cases. Currently, we've had 1,832 total cases in Muscogee County. 1,558 recovered, 23 fatalities, leaving 251 active cases in the county. We're continuing to do testing at the County Health Department daily, 8:30 to 10:30 a.m., free, no appointment necessary. We are continuing to see gradual increases in the positivity of the results from that testing at the health department, ranging from 10 to 11% positive for those that are tested. We still strongly encourage and believe that the measures that are in place and highly recommended by the city and the state, if practiced diligently, will work to reduce the spread. Wearing face coverings anytime in public, maintaining distance of 6 feet or greater, being very attentive to the amount of time spent closer than that to someone, avoiding periods longer than 10 or 15 minutes together, and avoiding really social activities, whether it's family, friends, church, or other social-wise, that brings people together without face coverings at distances less than 6 feet for times longer than 10 or 15 minutes. Those are the ways that we can reduce the spread. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Walton?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes.
Mr. Walton, how's the nursing homes doing?
Well, they are continuing to run tests at the nursing homes. The Oklahoma State Department of Health has their long-term care facility specialists working directly with each of the nursing homes in the city and the county, conducting testing of both residents and staff on a regular basis. And to my knowledge, as of now, we have no additional outbreaks on top of those that we experienced in the past couple weeks.
That's good to know. Very good to know. I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Walton, if you don't mind, can you remind our community when they can be tested at the Muscogee County Health Department?
Sure, Tyler. It's from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. No appointment is necessary. Just first come, first serve. It's curbside in the vehicle, in your personal vehicle, ages 12 months and older. No symptoms are required. We do also have rapid tests available on site. Most every day, those do require an appointment and have some criteria that a patient must have at least one symptom and meet one other high-risk criteria, either age, over 65, or chronic health condition. And to either schedule that rapid test or to really ask any related questions to testing, people can call 918-912-2160. If they end up getting a message, please leave your name and number, and someone will call you back, usually within just a couple hours.
Thank you, Mr. Walton. Mr. Mayor, I have one more speaker, Ms. Trish German from Muscogee County EMS. I'd like to introduce.
Good evening, Council. Muscogee County EMS is still holding their own. Call volume still about the same as it's been for the last few weeks. We are getting some PPE in, but we're still a little behind on what we should have in stock. As of right now, we're looking at canceling our Halloween extravaganza because of COVID. But besides that, we're still doing our disinfecting, fogging the trucks, and doing what we're supposed to do to keep the community safe. Any questions?
Hey, Tyler, I'm sorry, I had a question. So is Muskogee in the red or not?
We're in the orange for the state of Oklahoma, their metric rating. However, if you look at the Washington Task Force, we're a red county, which is why I try to include that on the back. There's some different metrics as far as the grading on what they consider red, what they consider orange, versus what the state, they have a different metric of grading on what they consider red or orange. But we're red for the Washington, we're orange for the state of Oklahoma.
Okay.
Any other questions? That concludes my update. I'd like to turn the floor back over to Mr. Miller.
So very briefly, one thing I just want to point out, I have a question for Doug from the Health Department this afternoon. We were on our call. I said, what can we do? And he said, basically, we all know what we need to do, and it's just really about a matter of vigilance doing it. The CDC guidelines, you know, they've been tweaked some over time, but we all know about washing your hands and social distancing and wearing a mask and all these things. And so really what he's emphasized and what they've told us over and over is we just have to be vigilant about that. So today, at our city, at my staff meeting, that's one of the things I emphasized to us. You know, we're getting to be about 6 months in here or more on this, and people are understand people are getting mentally tired. They're getting tired of the routine and the masks and everything. It's not the time to let up, and so I emphasize that today with staff, and I think I want to emphasize that today as you look around the audience. We do have a mask rule at our city facilities, and so if you're not wearing a mask in here at this meeting today, you need to be wearing a mask. We have some right here on the podium. I won't touch them, but if someone needs one, they can come get one. If you're not wearing a mask, you don't need to be here. That's the policy this council has adopted, and that's if we're taking it seriously as a community, we need to follow the rules that we have set in place. So that being said, don't have any other further recommendations from staff or comments, and be happy to answer questions and turn it back over to you.
We have one citizen signed up to speak to this item, Ms. Cheryl Brown. I'm going to ask that you give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Brown. My address is 10416 West 123rd Street South, Oaktaha. And I am here to speak for and on behalf of my mother, who is a resident of a nursing home here in the city of Muskogee. She is 89 years old and will be turning 90, hopefully, in November. She's been in the nursing home since January of this year. The nursing home has done a great job through all of this COVID and everything. They have tried to provide activities for the residents, and she's been very happy there. They follow all the protocol. They've been on lockdown since March, which means since March, I've seen my mother through her window and spoken with her on the phone. The nursing home she's in had 0 cases of positive COVID up through mid-August, which is amazing in everything that's happened. In mid-August, received a call from the nursing home saying they had their first positive test come back for an employee, a new employee. They were calling all the family members of residents and letting them know. They were, obviously, the employee would not return to work until they'd had 2 negative test results at that time. Well, that was where it started. Again, 0 cases up through mid-August. And then we start with the 1. Got another call a few days later saying that they had another employee, they had 2 residents, and the numbers kept going. Until, and I have my dates here because I want to make sure I get them right, on September the 14th, they had 22 cases. That to me is an outbreak. And I watched the city council meeting on the evening of the 14th, and I heard the report given. And when it was asked about the nursing homes, how they were doing, it was okay, no outbreaks. And so you can imagine me sitting at home and hearing that, and I knew that there was an outbreak. I was in shock. You all then voted on a commit before you about a mask mandate, and it failed. And I can accept that if you have the correct information while making those judgments, but you didn't. As her daughter, I was angry, I was terrified, I was in shock. So the next morning, I made all the calls that I felt that I should have. I spoke with some of your city employees, I spoke with the city attorney, I left a message for Mr. Walton, and everybody was extremely helpful. They understood and they agreed. They were all very, it went well. Mr. Walton called me back the next day, and he was very apologetic. We had a very good conversation. He said he did not have the information, and as a private citizen, I thought, if you're going to be asked those questions, you should make sure that you have the correct information, because something in a pandemic, those are important numbers for you all to have. Our governor, obviously, he's not going to do anything about it. He's not going to issue a state mandate for masks. He has passed that decision-making ability to each person here. And he has passed the buck to you. And as our city leaders and as our county leaders, we need, we can strongly encourage our residents to wear a mask when they're out shopping, when they're out getting groceries. We can encourage all that, but we all know it's not working. People are not doing it. I don't know how you force people to do that. I don't have those answers, but people are not doing it. We need that to be done. We need a mask mandate. I received the call on the 18th of September that my mother tested positive. And that was like a punch in the gut. That's all I can tell you. She's the only parent I've ever had since I was 5 years old. And she's in isolation now with COVID. Our nursing homes, our employees, they are doing everything they can, but we as a community, we have to do our part. And we're not. We need our city leaders to step up. We need a mask mandate. My time's at 0.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you.
Does council have any questions concerning this item? We don't require action because this is a report, so we'll move on to item number 20.
Hold a public hearing, receive comment on, and discuss the renewal of a non-exclusive Muscogee cable television permit and agreement with Seabridge Acquisition LP, DBA Suddenlink Communications, to operate and maintain a cable television system within the city of Muskogee.
Mr. Miller. I'm sorry. We'll now open the public hearing.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of council. Yes, this hearing is part of our process for evaluating our agreement with Suddenlink over time. There's certain things that are called for with the hearing for us to consider. Mr. Tucker has listed those in the background of your agenda item. What really comes down to is that Suddenlink has a non-exclusive agreement with us to offer cable television services within the city of Muskogee. And so what that means is other businesses can also do the same. Other providers can currently offer cable television services within the city limits of Muskogee. None choose to do so, and I think it's due to the kind of the high capital expense of running cable all over town to do it. But Suddenlink is, and even if we extend it, if we extend an agreement with Suddenlink, the competitors still could come into town in the market. We have talked to other people in the cable television industry. No one has expressed interest in coming into the Muskogee market because of the expanding non-cable television industry, satellite television becoming more prevalent, people cutting the cord and using online streaming services rather than cable television. So as we look at the renewing the agreement, those are just things that we need to consider. The city gets revenues of approximately $345,000 a year from this agreement. If we do not renew the agreement, there are the customers who currently get those services would not be able to continue to get those services. The agreement in your packet, there's 2 or 3 things that Mr. Tucker has tried to deal with, and I think we may have some opportunity to change. One is the term and the length of the contract. They've asked for a 5-year term with a 5-year renewal at their discretion. We've asked them to remove that, and I think that they're amenable to that so that they don't have it's not a 10-year deal at their choice. It's still just a 5-year deal. which is similar to what we've done. And they have agreed that they'll continue to maintain an office here in Muskogee as part of this. And then they're going to work with us, and Mr. Tucker, again, has taken the lead. He's done a great job on this, to formalize certain customer service and dispute resolution things through the city, so that if they're having major customer service issues related to cable television, the city itself can get involved and work directly with them, and they will be required to work directly with us to expedite those customer service issues very quickly. That being said, internet services are separate from this. Suddenlink does provide internet within the city of Muskogee, but again, that is a non-exclusive agreement, and there are several companies that do offer internet through the city. Whatever happens with the cable television agreement would not affect Suddenlink's ability to offer internet within the city. So that's just some background. We do have Johnny Moyer from Suddenlink on the phone, I believe. Mr. Moyer, are you here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, very good. I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add. Again, this is a public hearing, and we will do anticipate at a future date having an opportunity to get a final agreement and you guys to look at approving it at that time. This is a great opportunity to ask Mr. Moyer questions on behalf of Suddenlink about anything that you have that you'd like to ask him about as we look to move forward.
Just before we entertain Mr. Moyer, no citizens have signed up to speak to this item. We will now close the public hearing and entertain any questions or discussions from the council.
Mayor, may I have the floor, please?
Yes.
Mr. What is the plans on I guess they're going to keep the store location, so are they going to reopen that? Because I know it's currently been closed.
Mr. Moyer?
Yes, that is the plan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. Due to COVID early on back in March, several of our stores, not just in Oklahoma, but across our entire western footprint, were closed. As of late July, many of those stores started reopening, and the plan is to reopen the rest of them here in the fall. I don't have an exact date in front of me, but one of the things that we were looking at as a company was just seeking more flexibility footprint-wide with regard to our local office requirements. Especially now that we have multiple bill payment options. Equipment can be delivered by technicians and can be also delivered and returned via overnight shipping. But no, we haven't had any sense of closing that down. There's been some time to try to get that opened up this fall. We've had some recent storm interaction in other states that kind of put a few things back a few weeks, but we're hoping to have, like I said, have that open this fall.
Okay, and then is there going to be better customer service of people trying to cut out on hold times of people trying to get a hold of you guys?
Yes, as I told Mr. Miller this morning, there was a announcement from our business, from our company later in August, a few weeks ago, that was going to be a heavy investment to our call centers, to hire more people, to invest in new technology. For certain apps, for certain new, just like the technology that will open up the call center logs for people who do want to call in and not do it through a chat, email, or text. Those will free up that space there. We've got the 4 call centers, Lubbock, Tyler, Texas, North Carolina, and one in the Northeast that we've been opening up recently because of the storm. So our biggest time is trying to get that investment. It's going to take some time to get that installed, but they started that process, and hopefully we'll see some improvement here through the next 4 to 6 months.
Thank you.
Do we have any other discussion from the council?
I got a question for him.
Yes.
What's his name?
Mr. Johnny Moyer.
Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Moyer, this is Councilman Ivan. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Yourself? Thank you.
Doing great. I just have one quick question. We pay quite a bit of money for this cable, and evidently, y'all have us, y'all really have us tied up because we can't, have no other cable service here in Muskogee. But when I turn my TV on, I get tired of looking at the same shows over and over and over and having to pay the higher price. Is there anything you can do about that, sir?
I mean, I'm happy to look at that. I don't know exactly if there's a certain package that you're paying for that you might be, whether that's missing channels. I mean, as the city manager said earlier, it's a non-exclusive franchise, and anyone else is welcome to come in along those terms. But I could at least take a look at it for you.
Okay. You want me to give you my number?
As I told Mr. Tucker and Mr. Miller, I'd be happy to keep those lines of communication open as much as possible to keep that relationship between the city and Centrelink. I'm an Oklahoma boy, went to college up in Tahlequah, so I want to have those relationships with you, and I'd be happy to share it with you after the meeting.
Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate it. I need all the help I can on my bill.
I just have one question.
I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have an
have a
action
question,
from the, I'm sorry.
Was Sudden Loot brought out, sir?
Yes, 2 years ago by our parent company, Altice USA.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the council? Or do we have a motion to proceed?
Mr. Mayor, there is no action on this item.
No action, this is just a public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes, so we do anticipate at a future meeting, Mr. Moyer being back and being available for public comment, possibly in person, when we have an agreement for consideration for approval. The agreement here is just a draft. So that's where we're at. We do anticipate addressing this again in the future.
When are we going to sign the actual renewal? When are we expected to sign that?
We may do it in the next, we anticipate doing it next week or the week after, coming before this body for approval.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Item number 21.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4105A to rezone 101.59 acres located at 4412 West Hancock Road, more particularly described in the ordinance, from R1 Single Family Residential District to A1 Agricultural District, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This is a request from Travis and Bridget Bearden. It is to rezone 101.59 acres from the R1 Single Family Residential to the A Agriculture. It is for agricultural use in the future. This is the area that has been requested to be rezoned. And as you'll see, the 101.59 acres are located approximately 520 feet south of the Eagle Crest subdivision, the south boundary. It also takes in South 40th Street and then over to South 48th Street. The A1 agriculture zone does comply with the future land use map, and staff, planning commission, and public works recommended approval. Be happy to answer any questions, and the applicants are also here.
We did not have any residents sign up to speak to this item. We will now close the public hearing and entertain discussion from the council.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, but I recognize.
Yes.
I'd just like to say to the Beartons, I promised you that I would support you on this item, and I am. I'm going to support you on this item and do what I said and what I said last time about teaching your children something about agriculture. Because like I said, agriculture is a good field to be in. It's good to know about different things and animals and how they are raised, and they'll definitely enjoy it. One thing, I was looking at John Lewis last night. Y'all know who John Lewis is. He was a congressman. He used to sing to his chickens. Yeah, he used to sing to his chickens. So I used to have chickens when I was a little boy, and your daughters and sons' age. And my job was to go get the eggs out the hen house. And those eggs, when I say they're good, they're good. You know, they taste different from buying them in the store. But a kid, you go get a real egg out from underneath the hen and show it to your children, and then go to get an egg at the store and show it that yolk, you'll see the world of difference. So like I say, I commend you for doing this and having agriculture on your property, and I hope you treat your animals well and teach your kids well about them, because they're good to have. I still have cows myself. I can go butcher one right now, but I got to feed it first to fatten it up. So I'm going to approve this. I'll make a motion that we approve this.
We already have a motion and a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Tracy Hous,
Yes.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 22.
Consider approval of the final plat of Bushwood Estates consisting of 8 lots in 2 blocks on 1.97 acres located south of amended Eagle Crest Estates, or take other necessary action.
Ms. Callahan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a request also from Travis and Bridget Bearden to, they are the owners and the applicants for a final plat of Bushwood Estates. It is 8 lots on the 1.97 acres. The preliminary plat was approved by City Council in May of 2020. Seems like a long time ago, but it wasn't. This is to allow for residential development. This is the location of the 8 lots, the Bushwood Estates of final plat. It comes off of Crestview Avenue to the west side of on 48th Street. This is a larger view of the area. And part of the final plat process and subdivision regulations is that there is a drainage report required. They did contract with Holloway, Updike and Bellin. Greg Armstrong, professional engineer, submitted the report, and due to the fact that we do not have a licensed professional engineer on staff any longer, we did have to send this out for review by a contracted engineer. It is Cook Engineering. Kathleen Cook is the professional engineer. And she did submit the letter of review and indicates that the report meets the city's stormwater drainage design criteria and regulations. So therefore, she agrees with Mr. Armstrong's conclusion that the post-development discharges for the total site area are less than the pre-developed conditions for all frequency storms. This is a map of the drainage area and the drainage report. And then I cut out the portion that shows the detention pond that would be built and water flowed through there. And this is the final plat. Be happy to answer any questions. The applicants are here, and the engineer that did the drainage report is here to answer any questions that I'm not degreed to answer.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. McGee.
I got a couple of questions. Don't know too much about it, but I did get a call. His concerns were the ditches that hadn't been cleaned out for years and the water going into Cooter Creek. And I guess you guys did something back 20 years ago that blocked, you can't get to it now because you can't get over the property. You don't have the right to the right-of-way of the Eagle Crest. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit? Anybody that knows?
I can't, and it doesn't pertain to the final plat of the Bushwood Estates. It's the whole subdivision or South 40th Street that I'm not aware of any of.
You know anything about it, Mr. Van?
Yeah, we have. We've had problems out there, and like I said, I got it. And my agenda item is the last item on the agenda for tonight.
Well, maybe that'll answer my question.
And I will definitely show you some reasons. Eagle Crest does have problems out there. They've had problems, quite a while.
Since 1993, when it was developed, the Muscogee Area Metropolitan Planning Commission had notes that stated that it was on a substandard street and there was flooding to the north and south of 40th Street. None of that was corrected at the time of the original development or has been corrected prior before it was annexed into the city in 2005.
That is why we need tonight.
Well, you do know what he's talking about because as you almost repeated exactly what he said to me.
Okay.
But, okay.
Tonight, Ms. Callahan, like years ago, this should have been done right. Tonight, we want to make sure that I want Greg Armstrong to come up to the mic and speak. He's the engineer on this project here, and I want to see what he has planned, because, like I said, I've been on the council since 2014, and I've dealt with the neighbors in the Eagle Crest. They're very nice people, and the Burritons, they're also my constituents, So I don't try to favor one over the other one. I just want what's right for everybody. And I just want that to be made on record, because I don't have nothing against the Burritons. I don't have nothing against Eagle Crest. They put me up here in this seat on their votes. So, but like I said, Ms. Callahan, you know the problems that we've had with Eagle Crest, and it's been like that, but we just don't want it to happen no more on this addition that's going in right here. Because that water has to go somewhere. And it goes, I mean, like I said, I'll explain the rest of it when I do my slideshow.
Well, and I appreciate that, but I did not know that there were problems with Eagle Crest. The subdivision was developed prior to my employment, and the only problems that I've heard of Eagle Crest have been the lack of mowing on the properties north and south.
Ms. Callahan, how long have you been in your job?
25 years.
25 years, and you didn't know nothing about
City
this
of
project?
Muskogee. I did not know that there was the drainage or, the creek or the side streets not being cleaned out.
Okay.
It did not come through my office.
You'll know here in a little bit. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Let me suggest to the council, we've had several people to sign up to speak to this item. I'm going to ask with your blessing that we hear from them at this time. The first person to speak is Patrick Kale. I'm going to ask that you give us your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
I do not see him.
Is Mr. Kale on the phone? The next person we have signed up to speak is Michael Galden. I'll ask that you approach the microphone at this time, give us your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Michael Galden. My address is 4011 Eagle Crest Drive. And my question was, I believe that I just heard that. I hadn't heard much about the development in that area. But I do have a problem with drainage at my location. It's draining right between my neighbor and I. Just a drainage ditch that goes all the way to the street when it rains real hard. And also in my backyard, it goes from there on around to the other side of the street. And basically, the street, when it rains real hard, is lack of drainage ditch because it's full. I mean, it's water all the way across the street when it rains real hard. So my concern was that, is there going to be any development, anything done to fix the drainage problem that we have there? And that's basically all I had as a problem, is when the houses develop up there, are they going to cause a bigger problem with drainage, or is there going to be something done to develop that part or fix that part? And that's my question. And
Ms. Callahan, is it appropriate to bring Mr. Armstrong to the microphone at this time as the engineer for the project?
If you like, he can explain it.
Here, Tish, you use this one if you want.
Mr. Armstrong definitely can explain it better than I can, that he has his professional engineering degree and certificate and can explain what the proposed development would do with the existing drainage issues that some of the residents are stating.
And thank you, Mr. Galden.
Thanks,
Mr.
Mayor,
Armstrong.
Council. So what we've done, this drainage report, what it does, in order not to cause any more downstream flooding, developments are required to do a detention study. Now, this detention, what it does is hold back and detain what is being developed to its pre-developed conditions. So you're not allowed to release any more water off your site than it was before it's developed. So does that make sense? So in this case, we've got the pond there, and we've actually sized this pond to encompass more than these 8 lots. We've encompassed their future phases, a couple phases, which includes about 70 houses. So this pond is sized to prevent any more downstream flow than was previously developed. We've even decreased it a little bit, so because we knew there was some contention with this neighborhood to the north, so we tried to help it a little bit, decrease it a little bit, and other than that, there's not much more we can do about the existing drainage issues to the north. So I don't know if that helps anybody. If you have any questions, though.
So let me ask you a question. So what you're going to be doing is going to take care of the south?
Well, okay, so they're proposing their development, which is going to create more runoff. So in order to prevent that, we build a pond to capture that excess runoff and hold it, so it only releases at the rate it was being released prior to the development.
Prior to the development.
Prior to the development. So we can't release any more than it's being released now.
Okay.
So that's the function of a pond.
If we have no other questions for Mr. Armstrong, we're going to call up our next resident who has signed up to speak. That would be Miss Kathy Hopkins. I'm going to ask that you will come to the microphone and give us your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
I don't want to touch your thingy. Would you mind maybe your tissue? That's okay. I just didn't want to touch it.
Yes, ma'am. You'll have
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. You have 5 minutes after you give us your name and
I'm
address.
going to be quite emotional, and I'm sorry. I can't help it. I want to give you a little bit of history on me. I live in the house where the water's going to get in. I came from the Meadows. You're familiar with the Meadows? I lived there for 13 years, and from that, I have anxiety disorder. So I moved to my new home to get away from water. And now I won't be able to stay in my home that I love. I put so much time and effort into it. In the last 5 years, I've had breast cancer. This is hard for me to talk about. I've had both of my hips replaced and my knee. This is my sanctuary. This is where I go, this little tiny piece of this world in this town that I grew up in and love. I'm going to be run from my home. Not even if there's not any water, because if you put that water towards me, I won't be able to live in my home. I used to get up and pace for years at the Meadows watching it come to my front door, and it had been at the back door. And if you've ever known anyone who has those struggles, I hope you will hear me. I've lived here all my life, and I love this town. I've heard people say it's dirty, and I stand up for it. You know, this is my town. I grew up in it. Please don't fail me. I've already been failed because no one's attention to our drains. And I live with that. We've worked hard. We're good citizens. And I know the Beardens are too. But I have the right to live in the home I've lived in for 28 years now and live in that home and enjoy it as I have. And I fear that you're going to take that from me. Thank you for listening to me. I don't have anything else to say, but please consider the feelings of the people in those houses. It's not numbers and where it's going. There's people that live there that love it and actually love our town. I have nothing else to say, but you look good in the mayor's seat.
Ma'am, before you leave, we didn't get your name and address.
Oh, I'm
if you
sorry.
would say
I'm Kathy Hopkins. I live at 4104 Eagle Crest Drive, right on the ditch that they're proposing to come to my house. Please, help me save my home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hopkins. The next person we have signed up to speak to this item is Robin Hopkins. I'm going to ask that you please approach the microphone and give us your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Robin Hopkins. I live at 4104 Eagle Crest Drive. That was my wife you just listened to. I've come to talk to you today about the upcoming vote on the Platt 8 houses. Building one that the Beardens are wanting to build south of Eagle Crest Estates. They hired an engineering firm, notably Greg Armstrong, to do an engineering plan with the detention pond. Mr. Armstrong stated that he did what was the cheapest route that he could do without looking at other ways of the water to flow, because we already had a ditch there, so they just figured that's where it was going to go. So his study didn't even encompass everything. My proposal is that with that detention pond, to dump it to the south. It's already a floodplain. There's already a creek there that goes to Cootie Creek. Yes, it does flood 40th Street, but not near as much as Cootie Creek does. Mr. Armstrong also stated that he did not even look to the south. Everything he focused on was to the north towards our residential area. And to me, it seems like it's a lot more feasible to take that water away from the residents instead of putting it towards the residents. And I had other things to say, but I decided not to say anything else bad about the Beardens. They're just doing what they want to do. And these houses are going to be built without regulations as to what type of material, roof, fences, outbuildings, etc., not to mention subpar streets. They got a 4-inch cul-de-sac now without any rebar in it. And his answer to me was, city inspector inspects it, that's all I care. So if that's what the city wants, that's what the city gets. We have covenants at our addition, and that's why our addition has looked the way it does for the last 27 years. If we didn't have covenants, it'd look like any other resident subdivision in Muskogee that don't have covenants. There'd be all mixed match roofs, buildings, fences of all different kinds, grass not mowed around the fences, etc. Our place is pretty well clean. Everybody takes good care of their houses, keep the codes up, and it's a good place to showcase Muskogee and what they can have. We're here to fight for our homes. One I've lived in for 27 years, 28 years. I've added to it, built to it, I've updated it, and now I'm going to lose the value of it if it floods. And I know how water is. I mean, they said they have a 100-year floodplain. I lived at the Meadows on a 1,000-year floodplain, and it almost flooded my house. So I know that from 100 to 1,000 is a lot of years, but it will get there. And one other thing is there's only one way in and one way out. If we have an emergency with both bridges covered up with water, and we have an emergency, fire, medical, police, whatever, there's no way to get in there to them. We need to have an emergency exit. Originally on the original Platt, it was supposed to go out Crestview out to Hancock Street. Thank you for your time, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. The next resident we have signed up to speak will be by phone. That is Mr. Terry Miller. I'm going to ask that you give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I had a previous problem earlier in your planning committee. My name is Terry Miller. My home is at 4210 Eagle Crest Drive in Muskogee. I'm a member of Eagle Crest Estates. First of all, if I might, let me give you some information on our city leaders. A city manager operates at the heart of municipal government, where efficient operations touch the day-to-day lives of people in the community. A manager implements decisions that the mayor and the council make. The mayor presides at council meetings, provides leadership, receives input from the people in the community, and makes good decisions. A city attorney has a knowledge of municipal laws. The city attorney may also give advice to the city manager and the city council whether the city is exposing itself to any legal risk by their decisions. As one can see in these roles and in the departments surrounding them, the people in the community play a large part in city government. We are very fortunate to have very intelligent and qualified people in these positions. But the one thing must not be forgotten is the people. Eagle Crest Estates has had its share of water drainage. many that could have been corrected, but were not corrected. Drainage onto the old Eagle Crest golf course was allowed by the city when our streets were first made. Then we were annexed into the city, and the city failed to include a water drainage right-of-way. That error still exists today. On 40th Street are two bridges. They cross over Cootie Creek, filled with debris and beaver dams. Now, halfway up into our addition is another problem, water drainage. That travels under the Eagle Crest Drive by way of a cement ditch or trough and has a problem draining because it drains uphill. Constructed by city engineers 30 years ago. Oh, by the way, that problem still exists. But there's more. At the end of the uphill drain is a ditch that drains to a pond, but it can't be deepened or cleaned because the city doesn't have water drainage right-of-way. But that really doesn't matter. It all goes to Cootie Creek, under the bridge that has not been maintained by the city. I know it sounds like a never-ending story, but bear with me. Now the Beardens want to put a detention pond that will run in the uphill cement trough that goes under the road to the ditch that the city can't clean, to the Cootie Creek under the bridge that the city has not maintained. And you expect Eagle Crest Estates to say, sure, no problem. Sorry, I'm not done yet. I've been told from different city employees that there was a study, a water drainage study done on the cul-de-sac at the end of Even Par, something that a previous person had talked about, Mr. Galden. And that wasn't addressed by Armstrong because he does nothing, had nothing to do with that, I guess. But who, when, and where, and what has been done to that drainage? It drains straight from the cul-de-sac to Even Par, down to the, you guessed it, the Cootie Creek that hasn't been maintained by the city. There has not been enough planning done, nor has there been any work done on the right-of-way issue, nor has there been any work done on the cement ditch or trough that go by the Hopkins house that drains uphill, nor has there been any maintenance of Cootie Creek, nor has any alternative route been considered of the detention pond drainage to the south, only the cheapest route through Eagle Crest Estates. I can't imagine this proposal to continue until these things are resolved. I urge you, check me out on everything I have said.
Mr. Miller, I don't want to be rude or offensive, but your time has expired.
Give me 5 seconds. I beg you to please look at more extensive plans and resolve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Yes, sir. Thank you. The next resident we have signed up to speak to this item is Bob Myers. I'm going to ask that you approach the microphone, give us your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Bob Myers, 4206 Eagle Crest Drive. I just have a comment, I guess, more than a question. I don't understand how you can consider a drainage proposal that protects the new addition but doesn't necessarily protect the existing addition. And how can you say, I asked the engineer this morning, I said, where does the water go that you're going to dump into this retention pond and then dump into the existing ditch that runs through the existing addition? Where's that water going to go? They don't know. They don't know. So we're just asking the city to do their job and take care of the business. And maybe give us some other alternatives as to where the water could go and protect the new addition as well as the old addition, short of running it through the old addition. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. The next citizen having signed up to speak is Karen Swick. If you give us your, come to the microphone, give us your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Karen Swick. I live at 4106 Eagle Crest Drive. I'm concerned about the retention pond. I live, the concrete ditch is next to my house, and then the Hopkins live next to there. We're at the tail end of that ditch where it turns around and it doesn't have any place to go. I have seen that ditch full on numerous occasions when we've had really heavy rains. The engineer has said that it'll be less water that goes through the drainage, but they're going to put everything in this detention pond and release this water through the drainage ditch that goes right by my house, with no consideration that it already stops up between our two houses. You know, I don't know that I asked this morning if there was any, you know, special requirements for the detention pond to be built, who's going to be supervising the building of the detention pond. If that pond has a breach, the Hopkins house and my house will flood. There doesn't seem to be any codes for building a retention pond that I could find out this morning. I have some real concerns about that. I have concerns about the maintenance. They did tell me that the state requires an inspection every year. Thank you. I'm glad that you are going to be required to inspect it every year to make sure it's right. So that is one concern I have. The other concern I have, in May of this year, normally when it's raining real hard, I don't have to get out. I have had an uncle that fell and broke his hip, and I have become his primary caregiver. On this day in May, I couldn't get out of Eagle Crest because the water had backed up. The water on Eagle Crest down close to the entrance was curb to curb. Was managed to get through that because, you know, you could still see the top of the curb. When I got to the entrance, I couldn't go south and I couldn't go north because it was flooded both ways. My second concern in regards to starting to build more houses is you have everybody coming in Eagle Crest. There is no other outlet. They've mentioned they're planning on building 70 more houses. So you're going to put all these people out here with only one place to get in and out, where if we had had an emergency that day and needed a fire truck or an ambulance, how were they going to get in? And that's what I had to say. I'd just like you to consider those things.
Thank you, Ms. Sweet. The next person we have signed up to speak to this item is Leroy Walker. I'm going to ask that you approach the microphone and give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
I've never done this before, but I'm Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the council. My name is Leroy Walker. I live at 4205 Eagle Crest Drive here in Muskogee, and I'm here to speak in regards to the drainage in our area with the new addition. I'm not going to cross the street about where it's going now. I'm going to try to stay what we're talking about right here. What we're looking at, and I live out there in my house back up to where this addition is going in. One thing I want to say, if you put 70 houses, when we first started out, it says 8 houses. Then I was told it's going to go to 38 houses. And this morning we found out 70 houses. There's around 65 houses in Eagle Crest right now. There's only one way in. And I talked to the engineer afterwards this morning. they're going to come up Eagle Crest, go into that new addition, and come back down behind my house to a cul-de-sac, go back out through to where they can come back in. We're doubling traffic in the area right there. Not only that, as you look at the pond, the study was done, and he was given charge. And it was very interesting. I learned a lot about it. But at the same time, the study was not done on the east end, where Mr. Galden is talking about. That's where a house is being built right now. It's built pretty much finished, lovely home. And it's a cul-de-sac. But what Mr. Galden, and 2 more houses are going to be built, and right now, water is going down on his property on both sides of his house. If a water study is not done on that end, the water on the east end is draining back toward the west. If you go out there and look at it, you have to see how it's laid out. On the east end, it's hot in the west. And if I understood the engineer this morning, his charge was not given to go that far down. We were told before anything was built on the east end would have a water study. But it wasn't done. It was not done. And now, coming out of that addition, what else? Cul-de-sac is, water is running curb to curb now because you putting concrete in, you putting, when that was building, we had mud going down our street, and it ended up going down the drainage. So that's what we confronted with. And I understand they say, well, it's not going to add any more water. But anytime you cover 70 houses, you're doing away with grass where it soaks in. You can put driveways in. You can put a street in. Now, all that water going to come gushing into that pond. And I understand what the Hopkins is saying, because they live right on that ditch line. And anyone that's been out there when it's raining, that ditch line, that concrete ditch, which is built wrong, is taking water when it gets down. You go out there now, that ditch line got water in it because it's built wrong and it's not taking the water out. This design is going to take the water out in that same ditch line. Yes, I hear the city says, and they've been told this, that property was built 20 years ago. Nothing we could do with it. Should have been corrected then. If you do it once, shame on me. I mean, shame on you. But if you do it twice, shame on you. Because of the fact this first edition was built wrong, why would we go in there and put another edition that's got a water problem with the same amount of houses to where you're going to have a drainage problem again? Because that water, I understand, I've been told water run downhill. I get that. I'm not an engineer and I understand that. But at the same time, something needs to be looked at. Whether the city can work with the Beardens, I don't know if with grant-wise or something, that turn that water back to the south in order for it to go down through there. And we're really concerned about getting in and out of the addition. I was going out to that addition that same day, but this lady just before me said, couldn't get out. That'll be in the next meeting. But we're just concerned about what we're dealing with right now. All we're asking is, if I would propose something, that you delay this until the whole plat is made. We're dealing with 8 houses right now. Where's the 70 houses going to go? And anytime you're doing a construction of an addition, I would think you have the whole addition in place before you pass part of it. And they tells us, Ms. Tish tells us, well, they're going to do that later on. They'll come back each phase. But the time to correct the water flow and the flooding is now, before it goes in. I would suggest to you, Councilman, Mr. Mayor, that you all study this a little harder. If you have to help the Bears push that water to the south, that will solve everybody's problem, our addition and the new addition as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. The next resident having signed up to speak is Mr. Sean Raper. I'm going to ask that you approach the microphone, give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Mayor, Council, Sean Raper, 605 Hilltop Lane, Muskogee. As you may know, I am a real estate broker, and as a realtor, it's important that planning and zoning and development work in a predictable fashion in the city to be able to sell property and encourage development. This land's presently zoned residential, and as such, platting a subdivision should be just a matter of complying with the ordinances and the codes of the city, and the subdivision should be approved. And when things don't work like that, it introduces uncertainty that makes development more difficult to attract. And, you know, if I tell you, yeah, it's zoned residential, you can build a subdivision there, but you don't have any certainty that that's the case, then that negatively impacts the value of the land because of that uncertainty. And it discourages further development. Last year in August, the Beardens made an application to rezone all this land as agriculture, which would have meant that no new development would have been possible. And I viewed the meeting today from August of 2019 when Mr. Hopkins, Mr. Miller, and Mr. Walker all argued that that was zoned residential. They expected it to be developed residentially, and they were in favor of that, and they wanted no agriculture adjoining their property. So, I think at this point, it would be hard to argue that they don't just wish to deny the Beardens the use of their property. They don't want it developed as agriculture, and they don't want it developed residentially. So, what's left?
It can be, but it's got to be fixed first.
I guess in closing, I'd just argue that the plat should be approved simply by the fact that the land is zoned residential. The plat presumably meets the codes and ordinances of the city, and it's the right thing to do. And to do anything different is just bad small town politics. Thank you for your time.
No other citizens had signed up to speak to this item, but I do have a question for Mr. Tucker and possibly for Ms. Callahan. When we get to item number 26, can we give direction to staff and almost even mandating to staff, if Councilor Van is amenable to it, since his item that will require additional entrances and exits, that will require the cleaning and possible repair of existing ditches, and adding drainage to improve the existing flooding issues that we currently have at Eagle Crest?
As part of agenda item number 26, yes, you can.
Yes.
That may require some additional action that will later have to be approved by the council. So we would just take that as direction to staff.
And we're not taking that action now. Let me be very
Correct.
clear for the audience, but we heard some of the same concerns repeated. And I just want to be sure that when we get to item 26, we can give clear and concise direction to staff of the possible remedies to fix this solution, to have a solution to the problem that these residents have faced for so long. Correct?
That's correct. Mr. Mayor, the item 26 relates to directing staff to research the feasibility and costs of developing a regional stormwater plan, dealing with those drainage ditches and cleaning out Cootie Creek, getting the appropriate rights-of-way access would all be included within that.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker had also advised me that the Beardens had a representative speak on their behalf, Mr. John Tyler Hammonds. I'm going to ask that you come at this time, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Always a pleasure to address you. I come tonight and speak on behalf of the applicants. They are asking that you all approve this plat. We are excited to bring new development to Muskogee, especially to the west side. I know the west side is often forgotten in our development, but we are excited about investing our money, our resources into the west side. I know there are 8 lots, and I believe as of tonight, all of those 8 lots are conditionally spoken for. Loaning is in place or potentially in place for those lots. People are excited about moving out there. They're excited about living in Muskogee, getting better houses, and being part of this community. All the houses out there will be built in accordance with city code. Every road out there will be built to city street standards. Every drainage ditch, every drainage structure will be built in accordance with city code, in particular section 70-86, which has been on city code book at least as long as I've been alive. So there are rules in place that will be followed in the construction of this. We did hire an engineer who determined that this would not only keep flooding the way it is, but actually reduce it. That engineer's report was then verified by the city's own engineer. So again, we think this is an excellent opportunity for people to invest in Muskogee. As you all know, I used to be your mayor a decade ago, and even then we were talking about the need for more housing in Muskogee. We are excited to do this. We're excited to get that capital into the western part of Muskogee. We ask that you all approve this and be happy to answer any questions tonight.
Tyler, if while you're there, would you state your name and address? For the
Absolutely.
record?
John Tyler Hammonds, 330 North 4th Street, Muskogee, Oklahoma.
Thank you, Mr. Hammonds.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to submit to the council for further discussion.
Move for approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes.
I just have one quick question. On the development out there, Mr. Stewart, you come forward, please. This is done in Ward 3, what they want done. But I have a concern. I listened to everyone that got up and spoke, and they were right on a lot of things. Well, let me ask you a question. I know you've been here with the city a long, long time. When you develop in a district like that, placking a district like that, tell me something about streets. How thick should those streets be?
6 inches.
Okay.
Well, it depends. We do have a ordinance that sets out our standards, and there's different standards for different type streets, whether it be residential concrete or it's residential asphalt, or commercial concrete or commercial asphalt.
Okay. What the Beardens are putting in, how thick, and we'll say it's concrete, not asphalt, how thick should that concrete be?
So that's a residential concrete, and it should be 6 inches thick.
Okay, if it's not 6 inches, just hypothetically, let's say it's 3.5. Is that all right with the city? Do they go out and inspect it?
Then if it's 3 inches thick, that will not meet our standard, and we will not accept that.
So the city will not accept a 3.5 inch street.
No.
It has to be 6.
Yes, and there's many ways we can verify that.
Okay. I was just curious about that. All right, Mr. Stewart.
That it?
You answered my question.
Mr. Stewart, I entered the meeting tonight with an open heart to make sure that these houses were built in my ward, on my side of town, seeing the need to build homes in this community. I hear the citizens, one after the other, talk about the drainage problem that we are ignoring and still going to move forward in building these houses. And a lot of the blame that I see may be some slacking, some things that the city has done down through the years and haven't addressed down through the years. And so, at this point, I'm kind of stuck. I know it's just 8 houses now, but even in listening to the presentation tonight, we are getting a detention pond to pretty much level but not fix the problem. Before we vote on this, is there any action? I know there's a motion on the floor, and I'm not trying to take away from that motion, but is there an additional motion or additional things that we can do to fix the problem? And the problem is flooding in Eagle Crest.
So the way I understand this item, it meets our ordinances and our criteria. And if I understand correctly, we've got an item coming up on the agenda which is going to address that existing drainage. And what this is going to do is not add to it and control that drainage downstream from this addition. So I think your next item is what we really need to talk about in correcting existing issues. And I hope that answered your question.
All right. Thank you.
Let me say to the audience and to those watching, in light of what Mr. Stewart just said in reply to Councilor Reed, we have the proverbial question in terms of what should come first, the chicken or the egg. But I want to reassure all of those that are here tonight, as well as those that are watching, that regardless of the outcome of this item, we will give direction in item number 26 to be certain that the drainage problem is addressed not just through a study, but that we actually do what we can to allocate the funds through a various number of grants or solicitations to be certain that we have this division fixed correctly. The reason why I think that's so important is because we don't want to be impeding progress in either direction, to say no without having the additions that we need in our city, as well as being certain that we take care of what the problems are that were in existence in some cases long before any of us were even elected or even hired by the staff. And so regardless of the outcome in response to the motions on tonight, we will take action on item number 26 and work with Councilor Van to be certain that his objective is met to address those current drainage issues. Do we have any other comments from the council?
One more thing, Mayor Coleman.
Yes, sir.
I had in my mind on this item until something happened today, just today. And that's the reason I asked Mr. Stewart to come up here to verify what I wanted to know. And I know where I'm going to vote now. Because I believe when I sit in these seats, these citizens put me in here for a reason, to do what's right. And I can't do what's wrong. No matter how it is, I can't do it. No matter how popular the vote is, I can't go with wrong. So, like I said, Mr. Stewart answered my question, and he answered it well. And I believe, and like Pastor Walker said, I agree definitely with him, because he's very knowledgeable, and I respect him very much. And I respect everyone very much. I respect the Beartons very much. But at this point here, with what Mr. Stewart told me and what I know, and you know, I do my homework. And God, you know, it's funny. God always puts me in the right place at the right time. In the day, he showed me some things that I can't say, but he was there for me. And then my decision that I make right now, it's all about God and what he showed me today. And like I say, when you're developing things like this, you got to put things in place. And you know, I'm always talking about it here, I want things done right. Just like those houses, you know, before, you know, $20,000 houses, I wanted them done right. But this here, this addition, I want done right. The people that's buying these homes, they need to know that they can't get in and out. I bet you people's not saying that. That needs to be made aware to them, that when you build a house out there, you're going to have a problem. It's sad. So I'll be quiet, and I'll call it a night. But with my vote, I hope nobody in here gets mad at me. But trust me, when I say what I got to say on my vote, it has been researched, and it has been verified. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Council, are we ready to roll call? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
No.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. The item passes. Item number 23.
Consider approval of a memorandum of understanding among Muscogee Public School District, Hilldale Public School District, and the City of Muskogee, providing for the sharing of resources and joint advocacy of public education, or take other necessary action.
This is my item. We are at the brink tonight to be able to make history, because for the first time, we will enter, with council's approval, into a memorandum of understanding between Muscogee Public Schools and Hilldale Public Schools. Several years ago, the school district adopted a theme that said, "We are one." We want to be certain that as we move forward our city, especially considering items such as the one we've just heard, that we do everything we can to ensure that education goes hand in hand with attracting jobs as well as developing rooftops. Hilldale and Muskogee, respectively, have both approved the memorandum of understanding that is before us on tonight. The city initiated these conversations because we recognize that we have two great school districts, and that the only way to move our city forward in a progressive direction is to have a partnership that's not just part of an elevator speech, but a partnership that is meaningful, tangible, and provides results. These are the three items that the joint memorandum of understanding will cover, that we will share resources and coordinate efforts in the event of a natural disaster, pandemic, or other emergency in order to promote the greater good of the city and its residents, inclusive of the students, faculty, and parents of Muskogee Public Schools and Hilldale. Now more than ever, when we see what's going on with our pandemic, with our young people under the threat of not knowing whether or not they'll be able to attend school, we want to be certain that we're partners with our public school districts to be certain that education can continue. The second thing it will do is advocate for the advancement of education and through meaningful partnerships, coordinate activities and resources for the betterment of young people and their families. An example of that is the fact that many of our young people across our city live in areas where they do not have access to Wi-Fi. One of the things that we're potentially working on is being able to share our resources as a city to be certain that young people, through coordination with the IT departments at both school districts, have the opportunity to place towers or the Wi-Fi equipment necessary to be certain that they can continue their education in the event that the school districts are closed. The third thing it does, it allows us to work in partnership to add value to the public education system by advancing for the development and maintenance of quality and affordable housing, ensuring high quality of life of residents, and developing strong and stable economic progress within the community. For all of the plans that we have laid as a city, in terms of economic development, in terms of growth, in terms of our future successes, none of those things can happen, nor do they matter, without a strong education system. We are proud to be able to present this to council on tonight. As I stated earlier, the school districts respectively have already approved this agreement. They're excited about working with the city because they will even testify that not many districts in our state are able to do what we're doing tonight, and that is to bring our various districts together to work together in partnership for the better of education as we try to grow our city. I will entertain any questions from the council.
Move for approval. Second.
It has been properly moved and second. Do we have any discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 24.
Consider the appointment of James Gully to serve on the Civil Service Commission, filling the unexpired term of Mike Stewart, the city's appointee, beginning October 1, 2020, and ending February 28, 2025, or take other necessary action.
Deputy Mayor Reed.
Thank you. Mr. James Gully, former city councilman, served 12 years as a city councilman as well as deputy mayor. Got to the point where those grandkids got to feeling good to him, and he said he was going home and sitting back and retiring. But I don't believe in when you have a good man like James Gully, you can let him sit at home all the time and just enjoy those grandkids and not take care of his community. So it is with the great honor and privilege that I ask that the council accept my recommendation for the Civil Service Commissioner in the person of Mr. James Gully.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Deputy Mayor Reed. Do we have any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee. Yes. Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 25.
Consider the appointment of Dale Boots to the Uniform Building Code Appeals Board to fill the unexpired term of Wayne Johnson, beginning October 1, 2020, and ending April 30, 2021, or take other necessary action.
Councilor Hibbs.
Yes, this is my appointment, and D. Boots is not only very active in this community, he shows up for everything. I can promise you, I don't believe he would miss one meeting, so I'm happy to submit his name.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Further discussion from council.
And Mr. Mayor, if I recognized.
Yes.
I was looking through Mr. Boots's application here. It said extremely forthright, honest, to a fault. Really good looking. He's a good looking man. I understand. But, you know, I'm gonna catch a lot of slack from this. But you know, at this point up here on this council, I catch slack all the time for things I don't even do that I think is right. But in my heart and in my mind, when I know something's wrong, I can't vote for you. When I know something's wrong. And remember what I said. I do my homework. Y'all gonna one day, y'all gonna listen to me that I really, really do my homework. And that's a fact. So I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
No.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 26.
Receive presentation and discuss stormwater accumulation in an area bounded by Border Avenue to the north, South 40th Street to the east, and the corporate limits of the city to the west and south, and if necessary, provide direction to staff to research the feasibility and cost of developing a regional stormwater plan.
Just before we turn the floor over to Ms. Devan, again, let me remind those residents who are here that spoke earlier on behalf of their concerns in Eagle Crest. This is the item where we as council will work our way through and try to make a recommendation that will, in short order, address the errors of the past and do what we can to be certain that we protect your homes and your residences. Councilor Van, we have 6 people that had signed up to speak. It is your pleasure at this time to either hear them or make your presentation first.
It don't matter if they, I'll be respectful to them.
Okay. The first person we have to item number 26 is Kathy Hopkins. I'm going to ask that you come to the microphone, give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
This is silly, because now I have to touch their thing. Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
You have failed me. I'm sorry. I feel failed. Thank you very much. I'm shaking because you have ruined my life. There's no consideration for me as a person and what I've worked hard for. We heard them say that they only did that for one side. You failed us. There's something that went on today. Oh, yes. They're not up to code. My husband measured their street. It's 4 inches. There's no rebarb in it. My patio has rebarb in it, and I don't drive a car on it. You have failed us. And I respect you all. Don't get me wrong. And I know it's not personal to you all, but it is to me. And my town has failed me. I can't express how that hurts. You're talking about having people come here? Well, you got to take care of them. And I haven't been taken care of. That's not right. You guys all know it in your hearts. It's not right. It's not always about the money. It's about people that come to this town. And I'm not going to be quiet at the way I've been treated. I am not going to be quiet. Because things are, I've heard, we're going to slip this through. I heard that at the meeting earlier. We've got everything we need. We thought we'd just shove it through. Do you have any answers for me? I'm a citizen in this town. No one? That's pretty sad.
Ms.
Because
Hopkins.
you probably have run me out of my home.
Thank you, Ms. Hopkins. The next person who has signed up to speak is Mr. Robin Hopkins. If you come to the microphone, give us your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
It's amazing that you let a past mayor give you misinformation and go by it. And Tish, she gave you misinformation. The bridge on 40th Street was replaced since the subdivision was put in. And there has been, you can talk to Mike, many discussions about this water problem that we have at our ditch. Oh yeah, we'll get copies to do this, we'll get copies to do that. Nothing happens. We can't even get you to make him mow it. You guys have really failed the city, really failed the city. And I'm not done fighting. I'm going to have to take legal action and stop this and get this done right. And I'll probably have most of you in court. That's the way I feel right now. We do need this ditch fixed beside my house. It runs uphill. Your engineer, 27 years ago, engineered it and said it was all right. Now, you got another engineer says this drainage pond is going to be correct. There's no guarantees. And you let someone come in here and tell you that stuff and just take it for their word. I went up there and measured that today, and John Hammond sat right here and said everything's up to code. Well, I can tell you right now it's not. And that's not going to keep him from making everything else under code. You're going to have a bunch of shanties up there, and it's just going to ruin this city. And it's all your fault. I want you to live with that thought, that that's going to be on you. 20 years from now, when you talk about what they did 20 years ago, they're going to be talking about you 20 years from now. So, man, that council screwed up. And boy, did you screw up. I want every one of you to remember that. And I want you to get this done. Because if my house floods, because of your lack of duty, you're going to buy my house. I'm not going to worry about it. You're just going to buy my house. And it's going to happen. Because when I lived at the Meadows, I didn't think any way that's going to flood. It flooded. And this is going to flood too. When they're in the process of building this, there's going to be dirt, water, and everything else coming down that ditch in front of my house, beside my house. And it's going to back up, and it's going to be worse than they ever had before. Mark my words. When you buy my house, you'll find out why. That's all I got to say. You're disgusting.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. The next person who has signed up to speak to this item by phone is Mr. Terry Miller. I'm going to ask that you give us your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Terry Miller. I live at Eagle Crest Drive. (4210), and I'm a member of Eagle Crest Estates. I wish everybody would listen to what Mr. Hopkins has said. I wish everybody would take it to heart and move in the right direction. We've had problems here forever that has not been resolved. All these things that they're talking about the detention pond and the surveys, and I know Tish Callahan's talking that it's all up to code and this and that. I have real problems with code anymore. I have no problems with city engineers. I have real problems when the city says they're going to do something, because so far I haven't seen much results, at least out at Eagle Crest, about any of those things. We've got a problem with water drainage that was designed and approved, evidently by the city, when these roads were first built. Well, that problem still exists. It was poor engineering. We've got poor engineering that was designed and engineered by the city about the drainage ditch. Gosh, I don't know how long ago, 30 years ago. That problem still exists. It drains uphill. How can any engineer drain something uphill? We have a creek that has not been maintained by the city. It's stocked up with trees, bushes, beaver dams, you name it. Why is it so hard to look at another avenue to this detention pond to move the water to the south? Is that such a big issue? The main reason is because it was cheaper. The Beardens wanted the cheapest route. I understand that, but I'm not necessarily wanting the cheapest route. I don't want all that water coming from Eagle Crest. Why can't it go somewhere else? I know we've heard realtors say, and we've heard a mayor say about the progress of Muskogee and the people coming in. But as Ivy Dennis said, I wonder if these people would buy those properties if they know of all the flood problems. I beg you to look at this more carefully than you are and not just rubber stamp this thing. Solve these problems before we get to the 70 houses. Solve these problems, get to the 8 houses. Why is it so hard? Anyway, I'm done. Please vote your heart. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. The next resident having signed up to this item is Mr. Bob Myers. I'm going to ask that you come to the microphone, give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
I hope you all have got my address down correctly by now. Bob Myers, 4206 Eagle Crest Drive. At the risk of repeating some things, I think the message here is that we want this done correctly the first time. And hopefully also fix the problems that weren't fixed correctly the first time. And it sounds as though there's some thinking here that we don't want development on the west side of Muskogee or around Eagle Crest Estates. And I don't believe that that's the case. I think the case is that we want it done correctly. We don't want to risk getting a black mark on Eagle Crest Estates or the new addition as well. So why don't we do it right up front? Then people will be more than willing to buy in that area, and we don't have a problem. And I asked the question this morning, if you're going to build 70 houses, how do you intend to get to them? You're going to run 140 more cars up Eagle Crest Drive, a residential street, one way in, one way out? Nobody had even considered it. Aren't those things that you want to consider up front before you start approving this and approving that? If the Beardens want to build 70 houses, great, more power to them. Just do it right. And the city needs to do their job and make sure it's done right and not cutting corners, which will lead to more problems. So let's do it right up front. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. The next resident having signed up to speak to this item is Karen Swick. I'm going to ask that you approach the microphone at this time, give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
I'm Karen Swick. I'm at 4106 Eagle Crest. I had mentioned some of the flooding issues before, but one of the things that has not been mentioned tonight that I just actually learned about. I mean, I knew it was a problem in my backyard, but I live on the north side of Eagle Crest. We had a neighborhood meeting in a backyard that was further to the west. Everybody was talking about how the water, when it rains, the water flows and it goes across everybody's backyard. My backyard is always a river, and it goes into that concrete ditch that this retaining pond is going to dump into. So there's a lot of water that already comes into it that isn't part of that west side. And apparently when they first built this, there was a ditch that ran from west to east to help that water flow. All of us have got gullies in our backyard from this water flowing like a river across our backyards. Mr. Hopkins had passed out some handouts. There are some pictures in there, and there are pictures in there that show you the water that is standing in my backyard that's flowing into that concrete ditch. we're talking about, you know, it needs not just 40th Street. You need to look at the whole drainage problem that's in Eagle Crest. It's not just, all of this water that we're talking about is running downhill to 40th Street. And as I stated before, I don't know where you're going to put this, you know, but we need to have another entrance. And when I started, now I just bought my house in 2016, but I didn't find out about any of this until Thursday night. And I started doing some research. Well, there was supposed to be an emergency exit on Crestview Avenue that goes to Hancock. Well, with what you just approved, that's shut off. You can't do that anymore. So where are you going to put it now? You know, you don't have an emergency exit. So with all this flooding problem, we are very fortunate. We haven't had a fire or someone needed an ambulance because we can't get in and out. It's not a little problem, and apparently it's been ignored for years. I don't even know if this is legal, but I don't understand if coppage is the problem, why the city doesn't declare eminent domain and take what you need to fix the problem. I just don't understand it. And I think that the city needs to do something drastic to get this problem fixed. And you've already added to the problem by having the water from this new addition come to our street. And, you know, I don't understand how a new addition can be added and it come in Eagle Crest entrance and be called a different name. No one's going to know that that's a different housing addition because they're going to come in Eagle Crest Estates and they're going to go right down Eagle Crest Drive. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The next resident having signed up to speak is Leroy Walker. I'm going to ask that you approach the microphone and give us your name and your address at this time, and you will have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the council, for this opportunity to stand before you. My name is Leroy Walker, 4205 Eagle Crest Drive. I want to make a statement before I address this. Statement was made that I don't care about houses being built on the west side. That's farther from the truth. I'm an advocate for houses being built on the west side ever since I've been out there. So when someone made the statement earlier that offended me, to say earlier in a meeting, look back at the minutes, and says that I was against housing. I'm not against housing. I'm just for doing it right. That's all I'm asking. Now, let's go to this. Let's deal with this issue. Well, I got one more question. Before I want to ask this question, you all can get back with me on this. How many houses can be built before you have to have 2 entrance ways? How many houses have to be built? Just like a fire department, you have to have egress out of certain place. So if y'all don't mind researching that and letting me know, because if they add 70 houses, we have, I'm thinking 65, I may be corrected. Is that enough houses before you have to have another exit out of that area? Now, on the address what we're getting ready to get into on the drainage, Mr. Mayor, the chicken before the egg, that's the person you asked.
Yes, sir.
If this addition goes in, I hope you all don't do a study for 2 years before you get the drainage problem fixed before the other drains start working. Because the drain to the north has to be fixed to take care of any water that's coming across. So I hope your study don't last. I understood you say you're going to do a study. I know what studies is all about. I used to work in corporate. And boy, we would study stuff until they couldn't study it no more. And then it never got done.
Well,
so I'm hoping and praying that you all will take this bull by the horn, get the correction done to the drainage right now to where that water can get out of the neighborhood, and out to the street to the east, or to the creek to the east. Whatever it takes to do it, we just ask you to do it. Like the Hopkins, I feel her pain. I don't know if you could feel her pain, because she's right there beside that concrete ditch. And the other lady's right there beside that concrete ditch. And to see that water flowing, I worked in floods in my past, and that's a horrible thing. And if your house have never been flooded, or if you've never been close to a flood, that's a horrible feeling. So I hope you all ease her stress by taking care of this water that's on the north side of Eaglecrest and getting it out of there so it will stop backing, back. Instead of going north, it comes back south. So I'm just asking you all to take care of that before you go forward anything else. And I was told before any houses are built, all that drainage will be complete in the new addition before either one house is built. So that pond and all that, we hope that's in place. By the time that pond and everything get in place, I hope and pray that you all have the north side of the house, north side of the street, where that water can get out of there. And I think that will ease the Hopkins stress very much. So we're not asking for a favor. We're not asking for anything else. We're just asking that you all consider our concerns just like you do the ones that's getting ready to build now. Thank you. We appreciate your time. And hope to never come back and address this water issue again. But if you all do your job, I know you will. Let's help the citizens of Eaglecrest. But please let me know how many houses can be built before you have another exit out of there. Because right now, you're going to have over 150, 60 houses without an exit out, but one. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Walker. That was the last person having signed up to speak to this item. I will turn the floor back over to Councilor Van.
Yes, let me see if I can get this addressed. And if it's out of order, it's out of order. I won't ask it. Mr. Tucker, you're the attorney. Would it be proper to ask Mr. Stewart or the engineer we have here how many houses can be built?
Well, this item relates to dealing with the, let me pull up the exact item because we don't want an open meeting violation.
Stormwater accumulation.
Sorry, I was multitasking.
That's all right.
Yeah, the agenda item relates to stormwater accumulation. And so it could loosely be related to that if it would add additional stormwater. I don't know that anyone here, without having researched it, can give you that answer, but if they can, it would be appropriate on this item.
Okay. I'm just curious. Well, I have a presentation tonight, and if you heard, I'd just like to thank the Eaglecrest neighborhood for coming up here tonight. I wish the rest of the Eaglecrest neighborhood would have stayed so they could see what we're talking about up here, what's getting ready to go on this screen. And I feel for you, the Hopkins, and I feel for Miss Catherine. And my heart, God knows, my heart is hurting today. It was something happened to me today. It made my heart hurt. I swear. I'm hurting right now.
I wish I could speak to it.
I know we can't, but you know what? God will take care of it. That's all right. Anyway, Mr. Tucker, the name of my presentation, the Stormwater Eaglecrest Edition, South 40th Street. All right. This right here is the drain, on the left, far left, is the drainage ditch that Ms. Hopkins is talking about, right there. You see how that drainage ditch was put in back in the day? That water is right there. It is not draining. That's because it wasn't put in right. Okay, you see, the next picture is a picture of the Biggs, their home, their backyard. You see their swing set? They got a nice place. They got a pool. How would anybody like that, water like that being in their backyard? Covering the kids' swing set. They can't even get out there and play. The next photo is right there on Eaglecrest. See all that water collecting? Same thing. You know, it's just sad. Go ahead, Mr. Tucker. Okay, that's another picture of it. Water just collecting right there in the field on Eaglecrest and behind people's house. There's that swing set again. See how high that water is? Okay, Mr. Tucker. Okay, that picture right there is Mr. Hopkins and Mr. Barbara's house. That right there, and that's when that first other picture we seen. That was before the water got up to this level. You can see how it's flooding right now in that drainage ditch that don't drain good. That was put in incorrectly. Same thing on the right side of the picture. Same thing down at the bottom of the picture. All this right here is related to the Hopkins and Miss Catherine. They're right there side by side. Nobody in here would want to live like this. Go ahead, Mr. Tucker. I ain't gonna take too much time. Now, can you imagine living in a community where you got a bridge and you see all that water right there? Well, all that water to the left right there, that's heading to the bridge. That's just the bridge where you walk over right there. That's not the main bridge. That's one of the bridges they put in during the golfing days. The middle picture, same thing, water, water, water. Okay, right there at the bridge, you see the bridge right there on 40th Street. That water is heading that way. And you see how much water it is right there. Okay, that is the bridge on the left-hand side of this picture. See all the trash and bottles and everything? Same thing in the middle picture. Look like we could put some fish in there and go fishing. I wouldn't want to live in that kind of community like that. That's ridiculous. Same thing on this right side of the photos. That's Eagle Crest Edition. You know, water, water, water. Go ahead, Roy. Okay, this left side of the picture right here, you're entering Eagle Crest Edition. Going back north, there is the bridge. Right there at the entrance, you got a drain. You can't see it because there's so much water. On the right-hand side, okay, this is the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, the city, this past year or so, we put another drain to try to solve the problem, to get more water down to that creek. But it's covered up. You can't see it. That didn't help. But can you imagine trying to go back, Roy. Okay, can you imagine trying to turn in right there to go to your house and all that water? Okay, this picture right here, that's another part of Eagle Crest Drive. That's where you turn in right there, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. See all that water accumulating in that street already? And when I went back out there, I couldn't get through there. Okay, Roy. Okay, this right here on the left, this right here, this is the project that y'all voted on. I mean, you know, I do want houses there. Definitely want houses there. But this right here is par 2, I believe it is. Y'all correct me. Even par, I'm sorry. Even par. Okay, right here on the right-hand picture, the house is not there. I didn't take a picture of the house. But this was during a rainy day. All this water on the right-hand side is going down to the left-hand side, going down that street, going out where I showed y'all where the drain is, where you go into Eagle Crest. See, that's the Beartons, what they built right there. That's causing the problem. That's going to continue to cause the problem. So that's just going straight on down that street. So as you can see, they got problems. Go ahead, Roy. On the left-hand side of the picture, there's another picture of all the water that's almost covered the fence. And this down here, on this middle picture, that's going back to the south. That's another bridge right there. It comes off the Beartons' property because it's a floodplain. And when it gets flooded like that, you can't get out. Same thing on the right side of the picture. That's the same bridge right there. You know, you can't get out. Okay, Roy. Okay, this picture here, that's another picture of how it looks when it's flooding. Coming down South 40th Street. Wow. North 40th Street. Same thing at the bottom. Okay, you see this picture on the right? Mr. Hop, let me ask you, counsel. Y'all have this packet? Mm-hmm. Y'all going through it and looking at it? Because some of these pictures are a little clearer because Mr. Hopkins, he done a great job on this. I want to applaud him for that. Mm-hmm. So every one of y'all have one, right? Seen it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Miss Morgan, towing service, had to go out and get UPS out of trouble. That's a big old truck. You mean UPS trucks? Just imagine that's a car, and that's our kids and our babies in that car, and they can't swim. And an older person. We got all these situations in this community. People want to be able to get out. That right there, that picture really got me, that one right there. All right, Rory. That's the end of my presentation. But, you know, I believe, sitting up here on this council, a lot of times the council don't really, or the mayor, y'all just think I'm just up here to blow in. But I'm not. I'm up here to do right. And I try to prove to y'all when I come with these pictures that I do go out and do my homework. But trust me, this is one councilman that represents his ward and do homework. Just like that situation we voted on earlier, if you only would have knew, you'd have voted different. Trust me. We done our homework today. But Mayor, I commend you for wanting different roads, different avenues, because we don't need those residents anymore. Being in this situation, they got an emergency where they can't get out. I've never seen a community in Muskogee. I've never seen a community that can't get out. You got to be able to get out. That hurts my heart. It's been like this a long, long time. The city needs to take charge, and we need to take charge immediately. Just like Pastor Walker was saying, don't let this study be a long time. Don't let this be a study. Let's get this engineered and get it done. If we got to go get some, like a eminent domain and where that bridges are, we got to see who owns that property, see if we can get that water flowing that way, dig some kind of ditch. We need to do it. We need to get these people some relief and some help. You know, but I just, like I said, I'm not going to take more time, but I just wanted y'all to see these pictures tonight. And thank you again, Mr. Hopkins, for bringing these pictures, because yours is a lot clearer than mine. It's kind of hard on this flash drive, but I want to thank you and your wife and Miss Catherine for coming and doing this and bringing these pictures to us. So I have presented my case, and I hope the council will take advice from it and learn something from it, because when I come up here, all I do is try. I know a bunch of councilmen up here is new. All I try to do is try to teach you to try to do what's right, and always do your homework. Just don't say yes and no. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Go out and investigate your ward, because I investigate all y'all's wards. I have to. People call me. I can't say, oh, I ain't going, but I go. I will turn the floor over to you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate you bringing up your points, because we need this time. We need to get it right. When we build in this new addition, it needs to be done right. Not like this was, because we got problems. Let's get these people some help, please. I'm begging you. Let's get them some help. I'll turn the floor back over to you.
So, Mr. Vance, since this is your agenda item, I have a couple of suggestions, but I want you to
go ahead, sir.
Be certain they're okay. I think separate and apart from a study being done, what may be in order at this time is, Mr. Tucker, you have to help us if Mr. Van is agreeable, some sort of motion that will direct staff to either directly or subcontract out the cleaning of the existing drains and ditches and structures. Because one of my concerns that I want to address based on what the residents have said, and I agree with them, that we don't want a study to take 90 days and then we try to take action after the study is done. I want to be certain that tonight, Councilor Van, that we're able to make a recommendation or give direction to staff to clean the existing ditches and drains, even if we have to have that work subcontracted out.
Another thing, Roy, if we go like where those creeks are, I mean not creeks, but where those bridges are, and that's across on other people's property, what's the lawyer way to get this right and get it done? Without cuffing our van and us taking us to jail, because I don't need that.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No. So if you're talking about going on to somebody's property where, for example, we don't have an easement access, the first thing that the council would do is to declare necessity for it. And then once the declaration of necessity is made, then we would attempt to negotiate with the landowner to get that easement. And if that is unsuccessful, then we would exercise the right of eminent domain, as some of the speakers have already mentioned. When it is something that has to deal with public health and safety, we always have the right of eminent domain in order to do that. So, but that would be a separate agenda item, because we would have to identify which of those we don't have in order to include those with some level of specificity on a resolution of necessity.
Mayor Coleman, that's one thing I think I'll be bringing this up tonight, and the neighbors all coming out. That is one thing that we need to do, first of all, to get them some relief. To get them some relief, we need to do that. That's what I suggested. I mean, I'm just one person up here.
I agree with you, Councilman Bingham.
I'm just one person up here, but I just like I say, please, when it rains again, we get a hard, heavy. You know what? Last night, for example, it didn't rain much. It came with that little downpour. Go look at those bridges right there on 40th Street right now and see the water just sitting. And go look at that drainage ditch the Hopkins is right by their house. Water just sitting. It's nothing that we making up. You see the pictures. So that's what I would like to see done, Mayor, first of all. That's just me. And you said it wasn't illegal, right, Roy?
It was not. It is not illegal.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, that's correct.
I just want to get that on.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to get it rid of.
But if I'm correct, Mr. Tucker, that would have to be a separate item.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you'll give me 2 seconds, I think I understand what you all want to do, and I'm trying to craft a motion which will be fairly lengthy, but we'll get, I think, what you all want done.
Okay.
The only thing I'm unclear on is the agenda item speaks to a regional stormwater plan, and I haven't heard a lot of discussion on that, so I don't know. I need some direction on how you want that addressed as part of the motion.
I believe Mr. Miller, I talked to him earlier. I believe he can address that, Mr. Tucker.
Okay.
Forgive me, I've been sitting a while. I'm a little creaky. Thank you, Mr. Van, for bringing this forward. Once again, the city's being asked to deal with an issue that was started 27 years ago outside of the city. The neighborhood was designed and taken in to annex much later. So we're talking about the drainage problems. Just want to be clear, these are not drainage problems that the city did. The city's trying to fix something that was put in place before it was part of the city. But that's how things are with a lot of things in the city that we're trying to play catch up on. And so it's a situation that we're used to, and a situation we can deal with. And one of the things that we're dealing with now, just in the last probably 10 years or so, the city's instituted a stormwater fee. And so now, in the last few years, we've been able to deal with stormwater far better than we ever have as a city. And so our first priority has been on stormwater issues, trying to deal with keeping water out of people's homes. And our second priority is to deal with what we've just been talking about today, where we have to do water rescues, where the water gets so high that it affects vehicle traffic. And so this is one of the hot spots that we've already identified as a high priority for the stormwater plan in the future. Mr. Stewart has already started talking about putting together an RFP or an RFQ, a solicitation for an engineering design for citywide drainage, because other council members have talked about other areas of town that have drainage issues. And so we don't want to address solely one issue. We don't want to just only deal with one thing. We want to look at the whole city's drainage issues and figure out how to address them over time. We can't do it all at once, but we can put together a plan. So that being said, that addresses what Mr. Tucker talked about, the overall regional stormwater plan. But it doesn't preclude us from doing what we've already talked about, the more immediate things. So I don't want you to take what I've said about the long-range plan and the overall as anything but just an addition to what we've already talked about, doing what we can in a particular hotspot area such as South 40th. So Mr. Tucker, if you were crafting the motion, it would just include possibly language to allow staff to go forward to solicit professional engineering services for such a project.
For the citywide plan, how long would that take?
So that's a longer-term plan, but we have to. This is a longer-term issue. Again, it doesn't preclude us from dealing with the short-term issues at Eagle Crest and on 40th. So that'll be the solicitation will take a little bit of time. That will come back to you as City Council to approve who we hire. We do apparently have an engineering firm here that may find out about this solicitation and has some expertise in stormwater drainage. So we're blessed to have a a good local company. So part of the RFQ process will be identifying how long it will take to get the work done.
Mike, is there anything from the city manager's directives that we can do in the morning, you know, and I'm just literally speaking, figuratively speaking, that we can get right on right away? We've passed the agenda item to, you know, build these homes out there. Is there anything that we can do, that staff can do tomorrow, that would help in the preparation, in the interim time frame to, you know, deal with the flooding issue?
Yeah, so I've talked with Mr. Stewart some briefly during this meeting. And so the things that we can do, we will go see about doing. And when you talk about if the drains are clogged up, if the ditches are clogged, those are things that we can address relatively quickly. There's things that we can't do, and Mr. Tucker's alluded to those, whether we have access rights onto other people's property to deal with some of the bigger issues. And what we can do tomorrow. Mr. Stewart? Good, he nodded. That's good. That's a good sign.
All right, so what I've gotten so far would be a motion to direct staff to implement and execute an immediate plan to clean out all drainage ways within and surrounding the Eagle Crest addition, for which the city has all necessary easements or for which they can obtain permission. To direct staff to investigate which drainage ways for which the city does not have a right of access, and to prepare a resolution of necessity for those drainage ways. And finally, to direct staff to solicit professional engineering proposals for an citywide drainage plan.
And Mr. Van and Mr. Tucker, I want to be certain that we're clear that these items are not necessarily contiguous to one another. So in other words, number one that you read, we can give direction to staff immediately to begin the process to clean those drains that are currently clogged or have faltered in their maintenance.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, the language is execute an immediate plan to clean out.
Okay.
So, yes.
Councilor Van?
Let me make just one thing clear, Roy. The drains that are on private property. Now, especially like they'd be on the north side, those drains need to be graded and need to be graded because I'll give you an example. Just like the drainage ditch where the Hopkins and them live. I went out there today and looked at it, and even though that drain don't drain good, where it goes out going towards the east, it's just like an uphill battle. That water can't go nowhere. And we've asked the owner before to help us out to get that water down, so we can get it dug, get his ditch dug, so we can get that water out of there. But he refuses. But the only thing I'm asking for is definitely to get these owners involved, and if we got to go on their property and get them some relief, right in there too. Also, on those bridges, across that street, everywhere that woods will lead, it definitely needs to be done. That will help a lot.
Yeah, and that's why I've included in that first section for which they can obtain permission. Because even if we don't have the right and we can reach the property owner, we can get permission in order to clean those out or do whatever maintenance needs to be done. And in fact, I think we've done it historically in some areas of Eagle Crest.
Okay. I just want to see something done.
Mm-hmm. But since Councilor Van, you've talked about maybe doing some grading or other more extensive things than just cleaning out those drains, I've included, I made an amendment to what I'd originally said for an immediate plan to clean out or maintain all drainage ways. So that would allow staff to do whatever they needed to, such as grade those or whatever else they needed besides just clean them out.
Okay. Because like I said, that's the main thing, is to get that water to 40th Street and get it out of there.
So, Councilor Van, this will be your motion to make.
So, just to recap, the proposed motion would be to direct staff to implement and execute an immediate plan to clean out or maintain all drainage ways within and surrounding the Eagle Crest addition, for which the city has all necessary easements or for which we can obtain permission, to direct staff to investigate which drainage ways the city does not have a right of access, and to prepare a resolution of necessity for those drainage ways, and finally, to direct staff to solicit professional engineering proposals for an overall citywide drainage plan.
Now, how long will it take to get eminent domain so we can do this?
With COVID, filing an action, it would probably take about 90 days. Because we've got to investigate the drainage ways, we've got to get approval of a resolution of necessity, we've got to find the owner, negotiate. The negotiations have to fail, get approval to file the action, get a court date set. So that's why I think probably not, with COVID, probably 90 days.
Okay, at least that's something. That's a start to get us there.
But Mr. Van and Mr. Tucker, if we do obtain permission.
You don't need eminent domain.
No. I'm
Right.
saying, yeah, right. If we obtain property owner's permission, we won't need eminent domain, and it could be much faster than 90 days.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. If Public Works goes out there tomorrow and we reach out for a drainage way that we need permission on, and they say, sure, clean it out, then we can do it right then. We'll have a form, of course, that written permission, but yes.
Mr. Van, does that meet your standards for a motion?
Yeah, just trying to make sure we got this clear, Roy.
Okay.
Like I say, across where that bridge is, eminent domain, in them woods, to get that water going that way. Is that how Cooter Creek go, Derek? You in that side of town? I was from Midland Valley, but go ahead.
I think we've accomplished a lot tonight. And I hope the council will support this issue. This is an immediate and a long time struggle that these residents have had. Appreciate you, Roy. Appreciate, any future work that Mike Miller as well as Mr. Stewart can put forward to make this problem resolved. And once again, we look forward to development, on this side of town, but yet and still we want to preserve, respect the properties of these citizens who have come out tonight. Mm-hmm. And, I guarantee you, Avery Van will stay on it to make sure that the feet are no longer dragged on this process. So with that, I'll yield it to you to make the motion, and I'll be your second, but I want you to go first.
Okay. Everything's clear and understood, Roy. Remember, if they agree to it, that's fine.
Okay.
But if we don't, we got to wait 90 days. We got to do what we got to do.
Right.
Okay? All right. I'll make that motion. So you want to say it?
Yeah, of course. So the motion is to direct staff to implement and execute an immediate plan to clean out or maintain all drainage ways within and surrounding the Eagle Crest addition for which the city has all necessary easements or for which they can obtain permission, to direct staff to investigate which drainage ways for which the city does not have a right of access, and to prepare a resolution of necessity for those drainage ways. And finally, to direct staff to solicit professional engineering proposals for an overall citywide drainage plan.
That sounds good.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second concerning this item on tonight. One thing I will add, and I think we can do this apart from the motion, if we can schedule a follow-up either on the upcoming Public Works meeting or the one after that, so that our residents as well as the council can be apprised of where we are in these steps as we move along the process.
Don't forget, we got 2 bridges to deal with.
This covers everything.
Okay. Hey.
Any other discussion from the council?
Make that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Tracy Hoos,
Yes.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jared Creed,
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. That is the last agenda item. We will now recognize citizens wishing to speak. I will call to the microphone Mr. Paul McKinstry. I'm going to ask that you come to the podium, give us your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Okay, for the record, I've been asked to read it for the record. My name is Paul McKinstry. I live at 3301 West 46th Street South here in Muskogee. I'm here for Hot Dogs and Heroes, and I'm sure you all recall that from the past. I've recently received...
Mr. McKinstry, let me remind our council over here, they're having a separate council meeting. We can't hear you.
That was my fault.
That's okay.
Okay.
Please proceed, Mr.
Okay,
McKinstry.
now, this is going to be short and sweet. I want to present it to where people can see it. I was at the governor's office last Friday. The governor has expressed a great interest in what's going on here in Muskogee. He called us personally to invite us to his office. He has presented me and my colleagues, of which Stephen is one, and I'll read it verbatim. It says, State of Oklahoma, Executive Department Proclamation. Whereas 50 million men and women, both living and deceased, have served in our nation's armed forces since 1775, and whereas only 3 million veterans are buried or memorialized in national cemeteries, over 28 million veterans are buried or memorialized in public or private cemeteries, and whereas many of these memorials and grave sites have fallen into great disrepair due to a lack of resources needed for continual upkeep and maintenance, and whereas since 2018, various groups and organizations have volunteered to come in and help clean and restore numerous veterans' memorials and grave sites in Muskogee area, saving both public and private cemeteries over $25,000 in maintenance costs. And whereas the cleaning and restoration of veterans' memorials and grave sites should be an ongoing program to pay tribute to the memory of those who gave their last full measure of devotion to duty so that our freedom and our nation shall live long and prosper and endure. Now, therefore, I, Governor J. Kevin Stitt, do hereby proclaim October 2020 as Oklahoma Veterans Memorial and Gravesite Cleanup and Restoration Month in the state of Oklahoma, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the state of Oklahoma to be affixed. Done at the Capitol in the city of Oklahoma City this 9th day of September in the year of our Lord 2020, and the state of Oklahoma in the 112th year. Signed, Governor Stitt. And the reason I've been doing this is because let us not be forgotten. And as you know, we've all been doing Hot Dogs and Heroes. The third Hot Dogs and Heroes is Saturday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Robinson Park. The reenactment group will be there. The Army Band is coming from Mustang, and we're expecting a major contingency from Tinker Air Force Base. This year we'll be honoring the veterans and members that have been helping us through COVID-19. So that's what I wanted to say, and I've been asked to read it, but that's what it is. And again, I want this to be the greatest thing in Muskogee since Girl Scout cookies. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr.
And
McKinstry.
again, you will be presented this at the picnic Saturday.
Saturday.
Very good.
We'll be there. Thank you. The next resident having signed up to speak is Mr. Stephen Ezel. I'm going to ask that you approach the podium at this time, give us your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Apologies for the delay, gentlemen. Getting too old for this. Stephen Ezel, 6121 South 6th Street East. Basically, what I'm going to be speaking on is simply kind of a reiteration of what Paul McKinstry spoke on. Now, what I have on here, on my little tablet here, is this is the flyer we designed for our picnic. Can you guys see this? Well, basically, what's on this flyer, of course, is a picture of the original VA Medical Center, and also the very first hospital that was in Oklahoma at Fort Gibson. And it says this year, of course, we're paying tribute to all the medical personnel who have served on the front lines in the COVID situation, and we want to basically invite you all to be out there. Jerry McPeak will be our MC. We've got the Muscogee High School Junior ROTC who will be performing Honor Guard. They'll be presenting the colors. We will be having the flag salute. We'll be having the singing of the national anthem. Chaplain from the VA Medical Center will be doing our invocation benediction. And we will be having the Civil War reenactors. They'll be firing off an artillery piece, of course blank round, mind you, but they will also be firing the 21-gun salute right before the playing of taps. Now, we had originally planned to hold this in Fort Gibson, but due to circumstances beyond our and their control, we had to choose a different venue. So with the blessing of Mark Wilkerson, I chose Robinson Park as an alternative site. And I know how much Councilmember Van had really much touted Robinson Park for many years. So this will bring some very good publicity to Robinson Park and some good clout to you, sir. So the ceremony itself, of course, will start at 2 p.m. And we want you all to be present, those of you who can, especially you, Mr. Mayor, to receive the proclamation. And, well, it will have, of course, free hot dogs and chips and drinks and stuff like that for everybody. The park will be made available for all the kids who want to use, like the playground and all that good stuff. We'll have ample parking, bathrooms, and so on. So we just want you to be out there. We want you, Mr. Mayor, you, of course, support our veterans. This will be a good way for you to come out and show your support for those who support veterans. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. And there's no such thing as a stupid question.
We can't engage during the public comment section, Mr. Ezel, but thank you for your remarks.
Welcome.
The next citizen having signed up to speak to the public comment section is John Hammonds. I will ask that you come to the microphone at this time, give us your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. John Tyler Hammonds, 330 North 4th Street, Muskogee, Oklahoma. I appreciate the opportunity to address you on this. I've sat where you all sit. It's a hard job. A lot of people criticize you. So when I heard some good news, I had to come tell you all. I was on a plane 2 weeks ago, and a senior citizen had one of our masks on. I didn't know her. We were in a different state, and I asked her, "Are you from Muskogee?" And she said, "Yeah." And she said she was so proud to live in a city where her mayor and her city council cared enough about her to send her a mask. So none of you ran to be in charge of a city in times of a pandemic, but I appreciate the hard work each and every single one of you are doing. Citizens are noticing, they are appreciative, and I just wanted to come and give you a good job. You don't get many up here, and you deserve as many as you can get, so keep up the good work. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Hammonds. That was the last person having signed up to speak to us on tonight during the public comment section. We are adjourned.